Like when, like,
We start.
oh, sorry. Are we ready?
More people,
We have one more.
No, it's just.
Oh,
Yeah, there.
sorry, Leah. Okay, here we go.
I think that's all. There was just
Yep,
one.
it is. I was waiting for this. I know, I did get one more.
so forgive me, because I came in late, I might need a little bit of hand holding. What are we, what's our charge?
I don't know. I wasn't late.
I think it is our next round of looking at our initial recommendations for Area A, Program Continuous Improvement, that we apparently worked on a while back.
We did.
I know we did. I just, seems like a lot happens.
We did, or?
We did.
Collectively?
Tina was on the screen that time. We were all in the room. Matt was sitting there, and I had a moment where I thought we were working on a totally different thing, and you went, "No, no, no, we're here." And I went, "Oh, you know, I remember the day." I was a timekeeper.
I trust you on that.
I'm having trouble like looking at like where is the response from the like
From the response.
I thought we got some feedback. Is the feedback here? I don't. That's what I'm having trouble looking for.
Oh, you're thinking of what the
The
commissioner
comments.
said?
Yeah.
What from the CTC? I mean, not, yeah.
That
For
is,
the initial recommendations, Adam, well, I'll just finish by saying now it's our chance to look back at these recommendations
Yes.
again and streamline them and figure out
Okay.
what we like and want.
Okay.
But then you're saying that,
It's right here. So like, let's look at that and we're gonna streamline them now.
yes, that's
Okay.
that's our
Okay.
task.
Okay.
But you do ask a good question about the feedback from the commissioners. Adam, I don't know, what in the comments, and you sort of read through the comments yesterday, was there specific feedback regarding this area, focus area 3? Do you recall? I mean, I have notes on this too.
we do have a handout,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
gives a synopsis of what was said somewhere.
and was it, I didn't find my paper. I thought I got-
I have it on the other things.
We were given a hard copy anyway,
Right.
but, and probably a digital version.
Was there digital?
There's one that I just got one. Boom.
It's attached to the item from yesterday.
And it's in like stable.
Do you want me to go grab a copy for you, Tina?
Am I holding one?
Grab
I
it.
just want to make sure, because I wasn't here yesterday, so I want to make sure
That's right.
I'm just trying to grab all of the ideas. If I don't have, if I haven't digital or I'm just making sure I have
It
everything.
should have been stuffed in your binder.
Okay, so
Let me see. Here,
make sure, okay, thank
it's the
you.
gritty one.
Okay, thank you.
We also got a link to
Yay, okay.
the photo
Okay,
slide.
this is right in front of me right now.
Accountability.
Okay, thank you. Yay, okay.
First one, the
Thank
first
you.
grid is the.
Thanks.
Can you, what's the, on the bottom, what is it?
Yeah, 3A1 handout with the grid.
Oh, there
We
we
got
go.
the email with the slides on. Yeah.
They all start to look alike.
Sort of.
That's not easy.
Yeah. I get lost in days. Okay.
Okay, so are there
Okay,
comments?
so I'm gonna put this one on this side.
Contents and,
I know, I this on the side, keep track of everything here.
Was it, are these the comments?
yes, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna take a minute to
Yep.
reconnect with our something from October.
Yep. Okay.
Those are the comments from the CPC community. Yes.
Yeah,
Yesterday.
Go and get them. They can bring those.
I know. I think I'm gonna go grab it too.
I'll be back
I
on that.
will.
Hi, sorry. Can I ask real quick, what are y'all looking at right now
So
at
we're
the bottom?
looking at the commission discussion about our area and.
Well,
Can you just give me it's online, it has it as like a 3B, 3B, like handout two. Do you know what it says at the bottom? So I can just find it.
we're doing two things. So one is RDI TPA 2B dash one.
Okay, I have that one.
There's one document, and we some time ago made some recommendations about program continuous improvement. So there are three recommendations in total that we made in October. So we are supposed to revisit those recommendations and see how they sit now. And one additional piece that might be helpful is the seats or the not feedback, I guess the notes from the CTC as they were discussing some of our recommendations. That would be RDI TPA 3A. And so that, I don't know if they made any comments about some of our recommendations, but if they did, it might be helpful to see how they're thinking about our recommendation.
Yeah, the 3A, is it the handout two from yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-up. I sent slides to everyone that has each of the previously made recommendations in them.
Yes, I saw
Okay.
To edit directly on them?
Yes, that would be great because then we can share those out and everybody can see.
Yeah, that was great.
I have two. Just those first ones,
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I think so.
does it affect anything we say? What's written there?
Um,
I don't know what their comments mean. With some of them.
I think my broad look at it, I believe it's covered in what we have done so far, but we could, except for how will the commission monitor how programs are supporting candidates? I'm not sure about that. But I think maybe if we go through each of these again, we can refer back and forth between them. So should we start with recommendation one?
Sure.
Adam,
I think,
the bit I'm not understanding is these are their comments.
yeah.
We've already written these.
Yes.
These comments don't really tell us to change anything. They're sort of clarification things more than anything. I mean, apart from the one that you mentioned, you know, it says about, you know, how will the commission monitor programs supporting candidates?
I think it's also commissioners saying, talking about the kinds of things that they think are important to make sure are part of.
Rather than a critique or an
Specific.
assessment of what the recommendations that we've made.
Yeah.
Across the
in general,
board,
they
right?
didn't go through recommendation by recommendation. It was sort of the review and then
Yeah,
their broad comments.
Mhm.
yeah, I listened to it, but I can't remember it now. Did it a while ago?
So through the lens of this, we're looking at our recommendations. Is that the idea? Okay.
Well, or we'll refer back to their comments and make sure what they have said is.
It's reflected in our.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think we can go to our recommendations
Uh-huh.
and just look at
Agreed.
these.
Okay, okay.
And I think the first 1, 2, 3 paragraphs of recommendation 1 look good to me. I have an amendment. Second, unless others have something else they think.
Amendment to the second recommendation, you want to jump?
Oh, no, sorry. The 4th paragraph, required data for analysis. Number, pass, no pass, rubric scores, condition codes, number of attempts. And I think candidate artifacts, you know, the actual work samples of the candidates we don't have in there. So it's not just looking at numbers, it's looking at the actual work.
I also had, isn't there an exit survey that candidates take?
Oh, that's yes. And so I think this is supposed to be specific to the TPA, but the
Okay.
exit survey with respect to questions about the TPA, yeah.
Okay.
Or survey questions, because now they're being included in some of the models. There's a survey at the end of it, right?
Yeah, and that's what we're going to suggest for, not to sidetrack, but for the asynchronous work going into the 1 day is to think about, so that we can maintain the longitudinal data for the existing, is what kind of questions might we want to ask on all the models?
Okay. So then there's a 5th paragraph. For both areas of strength and areas of growth, programs engage in an analysis of student work. We need to clarify that whenever we use the term student, are we talking about PK? 12 students, or are we talking about candidates? I think we're talking about candidates here, candidate work, which I just put
Yes.
as 1 above, but so anyways, I think these two.
Sorry, just to go
Yeah,
back to, do programs have access to the artifacts, or is that something the students have to share?
Ideally, the programs are looking at their candidates' work all the time.
Right.
But you're right, they don't have to turn it into programs unless the programs.
It depends how you submit it and transfer it to Pearson.
I think,
Most programs have it uploaded to some base of their own, don't they? That's what we do.
Yeah, most
It's
do.
all uploaded to TK20 and then they transfer from
It was
TK20.
something like that. I think it was chalk and wire or something.
Yeah,
We used to use.
Talking about it, it's the same. So the rule is, and you can, as a program, you can access all of that all the time.
Yeah, but we don't do that anymore. So
Oh, you don't?
so I've always been with
Oh, okay.
candidates who have to retake it. I've always been at the mercy of what they're interested in sharing or not sharing.
Interesting piece that we've got to add back into this. I think that programs need to have their candidates' TPA artifacts.
We go back like 10 years.
We
If I wanted to, I mean, we don't, but they're there.
Yeah, but that would be helpful, especially if you are finding trends from the data that you see here. You can go back and look across all those years at the actual artifacts to see what
Yeah, I didn't realise that for some people that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Because that makes this data really not helpful.
Yeah.
That's right.
The whole point is you want it to, so you can dive deeper into areas that are problematic for
Right.
you as an institution. But if you haven't got copies of what that actually is,
Right.
then the evidence is gone.
Spread that is.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. I don't know if we were a unique case or.
No, I think that's something that we need to add. Programs must securely store candidate work.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have to specify for how long, but.
They'll ask if we don't specify, probably.
Well, I think if you're gonna look at growth
Yeah.
and improvement.
Should be
of your
5
program,
years.
You wanna see where you were and where you're.
I think it should be for something like 5 years.
5 to 7 or
5 to
something.
7
Yeah,
typically.
because then you've got it ties up with accreditation space as well, then,
Right.
doesn't it?
Right, right. Where do you think that belongs? Where can we put it in? I think the last two, the required data and the for both areas, we could streamline that. Squish it together, maybe.
And can I ask, I can't remember why we didn't put anything in there that says, I mean, all it says is in 1, 2, 3, in third paragraph, student demographics. It isn't specific in, I mean, one of the things that we were highlighting was the disparity in certain groups. And that really has to be part of the continuous improvement. And I think that we should be more specific around that.
So too.
Sorry, where are you looking?
It says required data for analysis, number, pass number rates,
Oh, got it.
rubric scores, condition codes, number of attempts. It doesn't say
Student.
anything like ethnicity or first generation data or anything else that you might want to be using to think about groups that you're not supporting well enough.
I think because we added that one later, so if you look at 3B, 3D, so what is the 7th slide? Because I think we had a whole conversation about how that one was going to be separate because we wanted to highlight the disparities, so I might be wrong, but I remember like that's where it's at. But I don't disagree with you. I think it could be added to that first one too.
I think, yeah.
I think just because.
It's not in that list of
Needs to be-
data.
yeah, exactly. It won't be like a programmatic consideration like in that conversation.
Yeah, because Tilly, I was just looking at 3D as well, remembering that. And this one looks to be a bit more about what we're requiring the TPA provider.
Right.
But we need it to be part of the program.
Right.
Yeah, you said, yeah. Okay, so.
I think it should just be added to that required data for analysis. It should say in there again, student demographics, including, you know,
I agree.
yeah,
So what do we want to say there?
student demographics, including ethnicity, first language. I mean, the list could be endless, but
No.
certainly ethnicity and
Typical things probably that like any institution would gather, right? So
first gen.
like that it would mirror what like a higher ed institution would have anyway, for sure.
Other things about the data?
I think that's.
So trying to.
Do we want, well.
Do you want me to edit a slide as we're going?
Yeah, we should do
Or
that.
do you want to do that?
Is this a,
Because you were taking some notes
this is one
anyway.
that we all have access to so they can
Yeah,
see it? Oh, but do we need, because this is a public meeting, it needs to be on Zoom, right? So that the public, if they're watching this, can see what we're doing, or no?
actually, I'm gonna have to hand it out to William. So.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to share my screen? I think I could share it.
Okay, I mean, there it is.
That would be great.
Let me see, here it is.
Yeah.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I was wondering, I don't know, shoot this down quickly if it needs to be. Areas of growth, should we parenthetically or not say that areas of growth could be lots of different things. A strength, you could identify a strength as an area you want to grow in.
Mhm.
Do we want to be specific about areas of growth, or parenthetically note an area of growth could be a strength, or
An example.
or just leave it be. Sometimes over things are getting to the weeds.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I do think we need to, could you change the one that about the required data
Mhm.
and add somewhere in that list, add,
Here?
yes, yeah, in there.
Okay.
About the, student demographics, including ethnicity, etc.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
race, ethnicity, language.
Yeah, race,
generation.
ethnicity, language, first gen, etc. I think we can, that covers most of the bases that we were most interested in, I think.
So we have to limit this to TPA data. We could, for example, encourage programs to compare TPA data with like supervisor
Coursework.
yeah, to see if they might be misleading candidates in a way.
Rick, so that just whenever I'll go back to statute. So the statute reads recommendations to strengthen the accreditation system to ensure programs embed the assessment in coursework and clinical practice, offer sufficient clinical and pedagogical support, and support candidates to pass the assessment. So if it's within that scope, then
Yeah, then we should add something about
if it achieves those ends.
student work, including formative TPA assignments and coursework.
Yeah, like field practicum evaluations, coursework, all those sorts of things. Because you might have a candidate who's saying, "Hey, I got A's in all my classes. My supervisor's saying I'm doing amazing stuff, and I'm not passing this TPA."
Mhm.
Yeah, we could just where it says engage in analysis of student work, including formative TPA assignments, coursework, and clinical practice.
I think
Does that make sense?
to me that'd be helpful. I have candidates who really are doing work, but then you look at their TPA and you're like, oh,
Yeah, why is it a mismatch?
Right.
You want to, you want to investigate that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you do that one, Leah, as well?
We're talking about which of the paragraphs? This one, the areas of growth?
Strengths and areas of growth. Programs engage in analysis of student work, including formative TPA assignments, coursework, and clinical practice.
Okay.
Thank you.
How does that read? To develop an improvement plan.
Thank you for taking this on.
Yeah, I had a question when Tina gets back. I think she wanted also in the one prior right here, the required data, artifacts. Did you say artifacts?
We wanted somewhere, we thought that there should be a requirement for institutions to keep the records.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and for a number of years, whatever we say, 5 to 7 or something, that would.
Should we add that in here as a?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It would be good to know how many places don't have a storage of it, where they just. And I know that some, not ones I know of here, but certainly when New York was doing their TPA, it was just simply left to the students. You know, here's the link, you go, this is your responsibility.
Right.
Right? And they were left on their own and they sent it all off and
I think these are the kind of things that we can turn into specifications, right? For the next generation of assessments, we can say must be able to
yeah.
retain, must connect scores with evidence of candidates' work for purposes of, you know. So this is really rich and important stuff here.
And that satisfies a request here. So programs should be able to use the data, save the data. So that's it. And then how will the commission monitor how programs are supported?
Can we move on to the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everyone in the program is given a quiz.
This is your okay.
Have to pass or you.
Or you can't be an instructor. I remember writing these at all. When did we do this?
So what you have is
We did. What week was it? What,
last
November one? No?
focus area 3, we wrote those in January.
Okay.
December scored consolidated first round in January.
Right, okay. By the way, I should be able to.
Some of them you produced in focus area 1 and 2.
Right, and then would have come. Okay.
What about paragraph 3 of recommendation 2? There's this analysis of the sample candidate TPA submissions from that institution. To me, just maintaining like models for that more than the, I mean, the analysis is important like this. I know you hate the idea of this like collaborative, or not hate the idea, but like you've questioned like the idea of the professional development or the coming together, like what that would look like and the challenge of that. I'm thinking like another way of thinking about that would just be like an institution having like models of what things look like for that particular institution that everybody can refer to, for, like reference examples, so it's like this idea that there's a sample candidate TPA submission from that institution using the models that at least at some point or currently, all the faculty who are involved with that process are like, this is it, these are the models, that we all have and have agreed upon, if not actively in this process, like this is it,
I don't ever remember being the skeptic on this one, but.
Okay. Skeptic, like, is this gonna look like an online training? Is this gonna look like a discussion? Like, what is this gonna look like? And so, and maybe I have it wrong.
No, I think that I don't think you have it wrong. I think that there's some definite issues with this.
There are some issues with this. So there were some issues. There were some issues around this, like how does this look? And
my question is around the idea. candidates need all the individuals who support them. So now, what does that word support them
Right,
mean?
because
If that's someone who's teaching a class on adolescent development, and they,
sure, who has, is not,
who's coming in and
who says that they don't have to,
Yeah.
like, and they just be pulled in.
yeah, just teaching a course in something that maybe not even related to this, right?
So how do you pull everybody in so that they have
Yeah.
some sort of alignment and agreement and they're calibrated in terms of like what these things look like so that everybody can support? I think that was the conversation. And so there were a lot of different voices around that. And so, so one way to think about it is like, oh, okay, let's have everybody have a professional development, but then the reality of that is,
I think it's coming back. I might have taken on the.
It's coming back to you now that.
So I do think there is a lot of value in understanding whatever the TP is that your program has adopted. If for nothing more than to just have an understanding of what their workload expectations are like and just maybe being somewhat accommodating of that. But I genuinely believe that if you're not necessarily teaching to a test, which is maybe where I was skeptical earlier, but if you are training high quality candidates or candidates to be of high quality in their teaching, then the PA is going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
So if you
That would be the argument from some of our faculty. I'm not going to teach to the test. What I do is good teaching.
Right,
I don't need to know what the test is because it's going to be apparent,
right,
because that's what my course is all about.
right,
And I really haven't got a day to spend
right.
looking at someone's sample.
But it is also, I think, the value is perhaps in knowing the language that's being used in the TPA so that I guess the academic language that you might find in a TPA might be different from the language that one might be using in their course, and to align that would be important for candidates so that they're not feeling like they're learning separate things.
Absolutely.
And to be fair, for candidates, and the communication that has to happen between the assessment, the faculty and the candidates, thinking about all the different like what all the mediation that happens there between languages and culture and all the, like all the things that it's like how kind of arrogant to be like, oh, I'm what I do is going to be good enough, to, like being explicit and having something concrete to show is really important,
Well, okay, so the spirit, I think, we're all in with, but there's some in practice, there's some issues. Colin's bringing up, well, who are we talking about? We're
Right,
saying
exactly.
all people are supporting. It looks like
that just by adding the words directly support in that the second paragraph, need all individuals who directly support them. Now that would make sense, right? It's when it's broadened out in the third paragraph that there's we need, even if you just add the word ideally or something.
Yep, to make a little space.
To leave a little space, particularly for course faculty.
I agree.
Clinical faculty, I think, should know whether,
Absolutely.
That's the only issue I have is with the course faculty.
I agree.
I don't know why this question here, I'm looking at the comments from the commissioners. How will the commission monitor how programs are supporting candidates? I don't know why I'm attaching that to recommendation two. I guess I'm just wondering if there is a link at all. How is a commission going to be able to? How is a program going to provide evidence that they're doing this other than just offering up a slide deck and saying, see, it's happening?
To me, I don't know. They could say, here's here's an example of,
We were asked about it in accreditation. I have to write a thing about when we meet, how we induct new faculty and new teachers into the program and share our understandings of it. I mean, all it really boils down to is that we have, three meetings or whatever, and I say we have 3 meetings. Here's the agendas. Here's the slide deck that we use to share that out.
We have a meeting, we have a document, we have a slide deck, we have 3 samples.
Yeah.
You know?
And that covers it, whether anyone was paying attention.
Right.
Also, but then why even have this then? I mean, I don't know.
It's better than nothing, though. I mean, I think, when someone's trying to get oriented to the task and have a resource, that's nice to have,
I guess I'm just saying, no one's taking it seriously. Even though we have these meetings, people are gonna. It's like one of those mandatory trainings that we're likely to do from year to year. Where I don't know about you, but I am not giving 100% of my attention to those mandated trainings when I'm. So especially after the third or fourth time that I've had to take it, and it's the same video.
Having played multiple or having been in multiple roles in higher ed and having been a lecturer, having been tenure track faculty, having done supervisory things, I can say, there are different entry points into this world, and depending on how you come into this space, you can completely miss some of the orientation and the training, and so sometimes these documents that come out and say, oh, this is what we do as a program, this is the agreement that we have, it can be enlightening. Oh, this is because you don't, you come in to the space in a way that where you sort of bypass or circumvent that. And so I think it's nice to have, it is nice to have.
Yeah, I think that there should
It
be
exists,
something.
whether you are, like it's a requirement that you engage with it or not. There's a sense that it has been thought of,
I mean,
But yeah, I don't know if we need the CTC.
Okay, so last question as a skeptic.
Yes.
Why do we need to involve the mentor teachers in this? Why do they need to be versed on TPAs?
we do it so that they can be, because they're very often the ones that are guiding them about the lesson plans and the actual class setup and the activities that they're going to be doing with their students, and they know whether it'll work or not, for example, and they need to know what the requirements are. Otherwise it comes as a bit of a shock. Oh, well, in history, what we really like them to do is to model some analysis of documents, and then they can do it, and then you bring them back together and a group can look at it. So that's a really good activity, but it's the CT who will sort of guide them in that, as well as their supervisor. It depends on the structure of it, though, of the program, I think. I mean, we have a very tight link with our CTs and supervisors, and some institutions don't. I mean, if you've got a supervisor that's going to 20 people, which I know that some institutions have, building that relationship and understanding with 20 different CTs who are very busy is not easy to do. I have 4.
Yeah, well, so yeah, that's kind of the underlying worry with my question is, I know I'm not in a program that is very big, so much like you, I have I can be very selective in who gets to be a mentor or not. There are other programs who are so large or maybe even so remote that they don't have the luxury of handpicking these individuals. I know finding mentors, good ones in particular, can be a challenge. Are we putting an extra barrier to mentors by asking programs because they already have the 10 hour requirement to become an initial mentor.
Can this be part of those 10 hours, can this be embedded in that and be part of that piece?
I don't know what the policy is on those 10 hours.
Right.
Do you know?
I do not know what the policy is. I would say that, added to 1263 was the statute around ensuring that the aggregated results of the assessment for groups of candidates who have completed a program or year. So there's
Sorry, what?
Well, the commission shall report programs with low pass rates in the system. And so this is the statute that ties intimately with this accountability continuous improvement discussion. And so, I mean, it would be tantamount to making sure that they're aware of laws that are governing that space. I think it would be an appropriate placement of it. Sorry.
Can I share a little bit? I mean, the program that I was a part of as a mentor teacher had monthly, sort of drop-in times. And I'll be honest, I went to none of them. I'm like, I have 20 million things to do that was one thing I didn't need to. I just went off the fact that I did a TPA and the program did a TPA and I knew what they were doing. But one thing that really helped was that the teacher the students of the program had their like lesson plans, and on their lesson plans they had the TPAs and the TPEs really. And so that helped me understand what they were doing. So I could quickly look at that and say, okay, well, why are we doing this? And then I would look at the TPEs and say, okay, I got it. Like that made more sense to me as a content teacher to be like, okay, let's talk about your lesson. Why are you doing this? But embedded in their lesson plans that they had to use for their unit and their lesson, they had the TPEs. And I think that was a whole conversation before about meshing those. But like if the program is embedding the TPEs, that should be sort of obvious across the board. And so as a content teacher, I don't necessarily need to know the TPAs, but I just need to know what TPEs are doing. And that makes sense. I don't know if that helps. If that makes sense.
TPEs would be part of those 10 hours and
Right.
any others, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I think the issue with that last paragraph is it's including people
Mhm.
at in a task, the collaborative analysis of sample candidate submission. That is a lengthy task, and I think it's more knowledge and understanding of the TPA that some people don't need. Some course faculty don't need it, and the mentor teachers don't need that either. What they do need is an understanding of what it is and what the demands are.
Right.
They don't need to go through, and I think certainly at TPA we've got information from them that we send out to all of our mentor teachers, to the principals in the school or whoever we're working with, so they get an understanding of what the demands are. They don't need to go through this scoring and looking at samples of work and things like that. I think that's very different.
Yeah.
I think the direct supporters
Yes.
need to do that. And those in clinical support needs to do it. But otherwise, I don't think so.
I totally
You can get off that.
I totally agree. I think when we were discussing this initially, it was in the spirit of trying to signal a shift in, or trying to like kind of promote a shift in sort of the triad and how do we create a shift in like those relationships, but like this isn't the way to do it. So yeah. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Do we want to maybe soften the language a little bit
Yes, I
and
think
say that
so.
meant
I
and
think so.
after the directs, I think I'll understand that individuals who are directly involved in supporting candidates, and then also maybe
Mhm.
encourage mentor teacher participation, but not required.
Yeah, because the idea is that, it's like, okay, so how do we bring in faculty? How do we bring in teachers? Well, this maybe is not the lever for that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we just say that, and others involved, such as clinical faculty, mentor teachers, need to have an understanding of,
And that can be sharing of information. It
Yes.
does not need to
yeah,
be.
that this is what we do. It's
Right.
it's a brief, like 2 slides or
Right,
one pamphlet
Right.
that goes out.
Right,
that we expect
exactly.
this. These are the main demands that you can
great.
support your person with.
Okay, so what are we?
Can someone else come up with the wording? It might be easy to start that second paragraph again in a sense.
So the second paragraph here, this
Yes.
recommendation is necessary. We want to do that with the third one?
I think so.
Okay.
that well-developed understanding is gonna look different depending on how the individuals directly support that person.
What's our time?
Aspirational is 10 o'clock.
Time is it now?
Too bad.
9:42.
How feasible does that sound? We're there. We can.
We're doing well.
10:05, 10:06.
Has the option.
10:15.
See what everybody has.
30.
Progressive parking.
Sorry, I got this right. Okay, this right.
All right, let's see what we got. So we're saying this recommendation is necessary. And you all were saying course faculty, they're the ones that need to analyze the student candidate TPA submission, correct?
Not course faculty and not mentor teachers, but clinical faculty.
Clinical faculty, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me change that.
Clinical faculty and supervisors, or is clinical faculty?
Yeah, and supervisors, yeah. Yeah, that's better.
Can-
And course faculty and mentor teachers. I don't know how to word it.
This part.
Need an understanding of the structures and process of EdTPA.
Mhm. And structure?
I think so. Does that cover what? I think it does, yeah.
Now I can kind of correct all the spelling and all the grammar. Let me see.
The mentor teachers
It
need
starts with
understanding.
implementation. The third paragraph starts, yeah. Perfect. Be addressed in between recommendation and by.
Thank you, Talia.
In the analysis.
We had, well, initially we had in a critical and collaborative. Sense.
What do y'all think? Let me know. I could still. I had bolded this for you, Colin, directly. Unbolded. I don't want to. I made that change. Okay.
Implementation of the changes addressed by engaging clinical faculty and supervisors in critical collaborative analysis of sample. Course faculty and mentor teachers need an understanding of the structure of the TPAs. Yeah, I wouldn't even put just the rubrics of the TPA. Yeah, I think that's fine like that.
Mhm.
Here we go, 3.
Just to maybe be precise, the structure of the programs adopted TPA, not TPAs plural,
All right, yeah.
because I'm not learning more than one.
Why not?
Yeah. I did enjoy learning about the past yesterday. I will
You
confess.
did?
Yeah, I didn't know much about it. So it was good to-
No, I like to learn about the PPAs, but I don't know anything about that either.
Did you say the cow?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
We're good with 2. I'll move to 3 just for the
Yeah.
screen. Okay. There you go.
And then we broke this one down into three and how do you go to 3 and 3C? I don't understand. Go to 3B, A and B then. Who would? Well, to 3A and B. Yeah, it happens. We're on recommendation 3 now.
Okay.
And if we refresh it, actually, is this a live one?
I don't believe so.
No, it's not. So,
It's just up there. Okay, got it.
okay. Yeah, and Leah's been making all the adjustments for us.
Leah's doing it, thank you.
Yes, she's doing it. Yeah. And doing a grand job.
Okay, yeah, the low pass rates. High numbers. We didn't really get a chance to build that one out, I remember now.
That may have been how it was left. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, because we didn't.
But we didn't finish.
Right, because it's on both the slides and the PDF handout. Can you go down to slide 6, Talia, real quick? Yeah, so I'm thinking there's not an A and B, but I can confirm with that. I think we have that first part and then the
So on the next page, page 5. So these were all of our initial stuff that we were putting in there. The third one up from the bottom is where there's some recommendations about the low pass rate and what to do. It's one right here. Programs with low pass rates.
I've got the wrong thing, I think.
So it's this document. The focus
Oh,
area-
with the document. Okay.
Yeah, focus area 3 document. Page 5.
I got that. Four.
also on the meeting agenda.
Oh, a link to it's on the agenda. I'll read what this one said. I think this is where we were starting to get into this.
Was this the first 3, the slide that's recommendation 3, the beginning of it, that we had more or something?
No, we didn't have more. This was everything in these boxes were the things that people put into the original.
For the original, okay.
And then we were taking them and writing the recommendations, but we didn't finish this recommendation. So I'm just saying that
Okay,
one
I'm
of
with you now.
those put in is here.
And then a clarification, part C and part B, 3C and 3D were added from other focus areas that really more align.
So we finished with 3.
Well, you did,
No, we
Well, we
did not.
didn't finish it. I mean, we started 3 and then
And then you all put in. these-
Adam or whatever added the C and D from somewhere else.
Because
Because
it
it
wasn't.
made more sense. Okay.
There was overlap.
So we didn't write C and D.
Say what?
We try for 10:15.
What's that?
Are you
10:30, yeah.
10:15?
Do that.
Check in at 10:15. I'll check in at
Well,
10.
we won't get anything else done, will we?
All 3 have to do with data and recommendation 1 has to do with data. But I think this is partially a conversation of combining the different types of things.
Okay.
Like 3D discusses a shared accountability between CTC, TPA providers and programs to address disproportionate pass rates, low pass rates. So I think we're kind of in the ballpark, and now maybe it might make sense to kind of read through what you started with on number 3, read through 3D, read through 3D, and then.
Just to sort of clarify for me, the focus of each of these recommendations, recommendation 1, recommendation 2 versus recommendation 3. Recommendation 1 is focused on the data and the use of that data and how that data is used. Recommendation 2 is about the people engaged and the ways in which all of the people have to be engaged. Is that right? And then recommendation 3 is, it looked initially like it was about addressing the low pass rates because that became a big conversation and throughout that. There was programs that had consistently low pass rates and they weren't doing anything about them. But now we've also got 3C and 3D added to this from other focus areas.
So 3C is a much better version of what we started with 3. Is in my view. I mean, it's sort of taken it to that level of it's not different to the 3.
Although it's quite similar to the recommendation 1.
Yeah, I have a question here. It's like, what's the focus? What's the intent? Go ahead, Miss.
Sorry, I am totally going back. I was just wondering about our recommendation number 2, and if we want to include the areas of strength and areas of growth identified from recommendation 1 as part of what we are asking our personnel to be informed about in part of recommendation 2.
I think that's great. Can we go? This is recommendation 2. Oh,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. So we would, in the end, we don't need a recommendation 3 because we're going to put, or at least some of it into that.
Got it.
Yeah.
okay, so say again.
Was it in the
Just
2, you mean?
What we want to add?
So it was,
Or into 1?
I don't know if we,
1, yeah.
so I guess in the third one, analysis of sample candidate TPA submissions. I guess we want to say something about having that be informed by, or maybe or maybe just the course faculty and mentor teachers, or maybe everyone. So I guess I'm reading recommendation 1 as the analysis, and I'm seeing recommendation 2 as distribution of the results from that analysis to all parties involved.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, but I guess
no. Wow.
So do you think that the ones that are addressing institutions with low passing rates or disproportionality in their passing rates, do we put that in 2 or in 1? Because in 1 we talked about the data. I'm not sure it matters particularly.
I think it might need at this point to be a specific called out recommendation, particularly because this is about accreditation. And the issue with programs with consistently low TPA pass rates continue to be accredited for offering teacher preparation because this for some reason has not been a serious component
Of accreditation.
in a way that it should be, perhaps. So I think it needs to be called out separately.
Okay.
But the other. So I'm actually thinking 3C and 3D are confusing me right now. That's not.
If I can offer one note, 3C, if you read through that, I feel like you have handled that in recommendation 1. To me, those read very similar. That programs are looking internally at their strengths and areas for growth. It's more of that internal focus of programs seeking to support their students the best way.
Yeah, I don't think we need that either. I think that's done. This is a focus on what needs to change. Accreditation.
Yes, I agree. We have the internal perspective, the staff and support perspective, and then this one would be more about what levers can we give the CTC in a collaborative framework, but also with that accountability aspect of accreditation.
So our focus, these are recommendations to strengthen the accreditation system to ensure programs embed the assessment and coursework in clinical work, offer sufficient clinical and pedagogical support, and support candidates to pass the assessment. And our focus in number one here is about continuous improvement of programs. So I think we've got the first one, we've really identified the type of data that needs to be used in analysis, and the fact that it has to be disaggregated, it has to be triangulated. And you have to also look at candidate artifacts. All that's focused on data. Number two is about all of the people who need to be engaged in a collaborative analysis. Do we have collaborative analysis? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It is somewhere, and it's
It's at the bottom.
Last.
second line from the bottom.
That's the
Yeah, the
key
bottom.
analysis piece.
The bit we changed from what was written was the idea that collaborative analysis of student work and so on. We're not going to get mentor teachers involved in that.
Oh, I disagree. I think they have to be involved in looking at actual candidate work. No?
That was the argument. We talked about that, and we don't think that's going to happen. And Talia used their own experiences. I don't think we can get our mentor teachers to. They need to understand to support, but they don't need to know how they're scored.
They don't
Things like
need
that.
to know how they're scored, I agree, but when they get an opportunity to look at what the candidate are doing, the actual work, it's much more interesting than looking at a bunch of scores, number one. And number two, even just looking at the tasks, I think isn't helpful so much. I think there should just be a suggestion. So we did have mentor teachers involved. We would invite
Yeah,
them. to
and
do-
faculty. We had both of them, and we were talking, and we thought that was the problematic piece.
But my perspective on this is that there are times that if the teachers are supported, they would very much want to be a part of this. They would want to be a part of the continuous improvement of the program. They would want to be a part of a voice in what happens in the program, not just being fed, here's the tasks, here's what you need to understand, here's how you support the candidates, but really a bigger engagement and purpose. And this is a way to do it. At least that's what we saw with our teachers. They loved being involved if they could be. Again, they have a gazillion things that they have to do, so it has to be supported from the districts and the schools as well. But this isn't saying that they have to score. This is saying we want them to be a part of the analysis and continuous improvement process.
So you think they have exactly the same role as clinical faculty and supervisors in this critical and collaborative analysis of samples? I don't think that we can ask mentor teachers to engage in the same level as work.
It doesn't say it has to be at the same level, though. It just says we want to engage them. Sorry, Matt, what were you gonna say?
Well, another part of the conversation too is if something like that could be included, we were worried about adding an additional barrier to people
Right.
wanting to be a mentor. And whether this kind of work could be included as part of the initial 10-hour requirement
Right.
as a mentor, or if it had to be
Yes.
something that would be separate. And I don't know if Adam ever gave us the
It could be. So the first one, the first piece in understanding the tasks. I had also written and rubrics because I think that's a critical piece that's missing. If you don't have that, it's not just the tasks. The rubrics, maybe that is meant by both. I put understanding the specific tasks, rubrics, and candidate evidence, like what's evidence of. But because I think we already have that. That first piece, that everybody's got to understand that's already in standards. Operating teachers are supposed to understand the tasks, everybody is. Right?
That's already a program standard?
Actually, I'm less familiar, but I can look that up. If you're wondering if the mentor teacher,
Yeah, so.
I am hesitant just because of the intern pathway, they may not have. I mean, they have support, but they are not in the same.
All right, well, we can leave that for now, but I think it's not just about the task, it's also about tasks, rubrics,
Well,
and evidence.
also in 3D, it's saying that they need to addressing that disproportionate TPA success rate should be part of that understanding too. So it's not just.
Yeah, I think that could be all part of this recommendation 3, though, that would be the
Okay.
focus.
Okay.
Speaking of 3, so I think we got about
Yeah, we've-
10 or 11 minutes.
I added the rubrics and evidence for now. I think we could go back to it later, but it's there.
I really do think we should say something about the mentor teachers. That was just. I don't know. I mean, I understand the barriers. We want to say something that. All above, we said, all individuals involved. I don't know that we have to say. At the bottom, be super specific about clinical faculty and supervisors, because people define who's involved in different ways. I also think research faculty, anybody working with the candidate should be engaging in this. So maybe it's just we leave.
Engaging in the critical and collaborative analysis of
Yeah.
samples.
Yeah. I
Why?
do. Anybody teaching them should be engaged in it.
If I'm teaching adolescent development, why do I need to be engaged in critical understanding? I need to know what it is because my candidates are doing that sometime.
Because when you're seeing what the candidates are actually doing in their classrooms and with their artifacts, you'll see how they're incorporating what you're trying to teach them into their work of daily teaching.
Do you think that clinical faculty, do you think the faculty teaching those courses would do that? Yours? Because I know that ours, but some of ours will not.
Some of ours would not, but we had a lot of ways in which we engaged them. They also found the value of doing it.
Some of them did, I agree.
Yeah. But I worry if we only say clinical faculty and supervisors, then we're missing the whole purpose of the continuous improvements. It's what's happening now. You've got supervisors who are external to programs doing all the work and the analysis. And then you've got people in the programs making decisions about where the program goes. And it's when you're all sitting down at the table with different levels of expertise, or not levels of expertise, different types of expertise, looking at the same candidate work, doing understandings about, oh, I was trying to teach this in my course, but it's not shown up anywhere here. These are the conversations that were, or I thought you taught them X, Y, whatever it is, right?
I agree with you entirely that would be the ideal. What concerns me is writing something that isn't going to fly in a number of institutions.
Or in a practical, in terms of like.
Well,
Collective bargaining agreements, or in terms of just the practical logistics of like.
Or the freedom of someone who's instructing a course to do it however they like, because that's their course and their responsibility.
It's not changing what people are doing in their courses. I understand what you're saying.
Or like a lecturer who comes in who can't be brought in a meeting, like to do a meeting like this,
I understand that too. We had part-time lecturers, we had mentor teachers, we had supervisors, etc. Everybody came because they were all invited.
Right.
And yes, all of these things exist, but what I don't want to do is say only clinical faculty and supervisors. Take that out and just say individuals at this point.
Okay.
Because then it says it's speaking too much to what's happening now.
Okay.
Are we doing on progress?
Sorry.
Because remember, we do have another bite of the apple in March.
Do you think we could just go to recommend? I'm really sorry. And the reason I stepped out was it's sorry. so long.
I added the same language as the top, but then are we still leaving course faculty and mentor teachers separate?
See the bottom of that.
I think it's just Tina's suggestion is just individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We can take out that last sentence, don't you think? Wait,
Engaging individuals.
yeah, is that okay? Do you guys think just that?
And not
Yes.
all individuals.
Yeah, no, I'm happy if it says that.
Just that,
Yeah.
and then that last sentence could be left out that she
Yeah.
has highlighted.
I think
Just
if
like
it's
that.
not all individuals, it's just individuals.
Yes,
I can
involved in supporting candidates and
leave space.
analysis of sample.
Like
Yeah, I like
things
that.
that we're concerned about as well as involving
Yeah.
Yeah,
potentially.
that goes round.
Yeah.
Can we do 3 now, or Matt, did we incorporate what you were saying? I'm sorry,
No, it's, we'll have another bite at the apple. We got, we can pick up 3 for now.
So, if we make this number 3 about programs being required to address low pass rates / high numbers of condition codes, I think that was our original intent
was.
in the accreditation process. And, I mean, 3C, we agree that that's in there, so. There was a recommendation on page 5 of here, this one. I could read it. We did finish this one pretty specifically. The programs with low pass rates and low to TBD, because we have to determine low. For 2 years in a row, would need to provide a report to explain why for each candidate, I guess there was a low pass rate for each candidate who does not pass. When pass rates for the TPA do not match pass rates for assessments formative to the TPA and or does not match pass rates for other assessments in the program or that other programs use to be ready to teach, the program must provide an analysis for why this is. Accreditation teams would use this as a data point to determine if program assessments are valid and rigorous enough to determine readiness to teach. In other words, I think the focus of this was sometimes programs will say, hey, these candidates performed low on the TPA, but they do well on all of our other assessments. So there's something wrong with yours.
Well, it sounds though, the way that it's written, as if that it assumes that the problem's on the program end and not the TPA assessment end, the way that you read it just then.
I think what this is saying is that there's probably both, but it's also not saying, it's saying that if the problem is with the assessment, the TPA, then the programs have to also provide some analysis, some way of saying.
Is that how you see it? I mean,
Read
you're
it
looking at
again,
that.
you
Yeah,
know?
read it one more time.
It's really convoluted.
Yeah. I'm concerned that it's.
Why does it add anything to 3D? I mean, 3D is one of the most important ones, I think, because it actually puts the onus back on also the TPA providers are providing the research and published findings on inequities that then everybody involved, the CTC,
Right.
the program, have to address those issues. I think that 3D is one of the most important ones.
I agree, but it's not saying anything about what the programs are supposed to do, just what the providers are supposed to.
Right.
So I think we have to add their programs in here somewhere.
Really be clear about that.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It needs to say that. The intention, I remember this one, the intention of this was that programs is that the data analysis on it all and the support for programs doing this work was going to come from the providers. That was it. They were the initial people. So you could see a comparison of your institution with other institutions for different groups of students and so on and so forth.
So what if we, would it make sense if you read it again? Sentence two, TPA providers and preparation programs are required, blah, blah, blah. And then further down, TPA providers and preparation programs have responsibilities for that.
Yes,
Try reading it with that in mind, just with that.
in that second paragraph, that last bit, yeah. And I think the first paragraph was really turning around back and saying to the providers,
Right.
let's look at what is causing concerns in the existing performance assessment.
Mhm.
What are the aspects of it that certain groups of candidates are struggling with, and causing condition codes and failures, and and if we can turn around, for example, and say, which we could when we saw the whole data, like those that maybe have English as their second language have a disproportionate pass rate. So what are you going to do as the provider to ensure that that isn't going to be happening? And then how do you help us as a program deliver that new approach to it, or different approach?
So I,
I was just trying to move us along on the slide, so we're just gonna strike through 3C and then on 3D. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
we could do that, although I was going to say, this is supposed to be about accreditation and the TPA providers. Accreditation is about what the programs are doing.
This isn't just about accreditation, though.
Our area, this area three is about recommendations to strengthen the accreditation system.
With regards to adding this, so the accreditation system will look at, we're asking them to look more at the performance assessments results.
Right.
And that needs to include the fact that there's disproportionality.
Exactly.
But if we're going to approach that disproportionality, we need that,
The support of all.
of all the people involved in that process. I think that's what this was doing.
But the accreditation system is not just focusing on those who are being accredited, but the accreditors as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that was the intention.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. It needs to be a joint thing. We need to change that we need to add not just TPA providers. So on the second paragraph, the third line, and there as well. It's not, it's there. I think that's where we add programs as well. TPA providers and programs. Yeah.
Right here?
And then maybe
Yeah.
once you're done with that.
I'm done, Tina. Where else?
Okay, this recommendation is necessary because underrepresented groups face systemic barriers and inequalities with the TPA itself. I think we need the TPA the TPA assessment and process. The providers are involved with the assessment instrument, the TPA instrument and process, and the programs are responsible for the process.
The process.
Maybe say, instead of assessment, say instrument. Does that make sense to you all?
Instrument, and you said something else. And process, or process is going to stay with?
In the process.
Okay.
maybe inequalities with the TPA instrument and does process adequately talk about implementation? It's not the implementation, it's the process of doing it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the process of completion.
It's also the whole process.
No, I think that
This process.
that covers it, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to make a comment on 3C and 3 that we're gonna get rid of these two. This one. And this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
it's gonna call 3D 3.
Should I just delete the slides or should I?
Yeah, we
make a
don't,
comment?
yeah.
Maybe just
Yeah.
hide them, don't delete.
Well, Adam will
Okay,
have,
I'll skip them.
yeah, if we delete them now, you still got them somewhere, so.
Yeah.
There you go. I just skipped them.
They're here forever.
Forever.
Okay. What was our time check for the return?
15.
Yeah, right.
Good job.
Oh.
Are we?
Are you good? Yeah. Still say 5 minutes, but.
That was good. We're not now.
Could I look at number 1? What you
Yes. Let me, there you go.
Class is Saturday, yes.
So I would just, I think that for the student work, we understand that we're talking about teacher candidate work, right? Not student.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it should say TC. Artifacts. Teacher candidates artifacts.
And then below that, I think also the artifact should be part of the data analysis, even though we. So, yeah, and then. Add to required data for analysis, I think. To make sure that the artifacts are. At the, right above that.
Right here, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I had initially thought. So number of attempts, and then we can say artifacts.
yeah, candidate. Work, I don't know what we call it, candidate work. People know what artifacts mean.
Yeah. They don't, they should.
Getting too specific. That's what I was trying to say. Streamline, focus. What do you think, are we duplicating what we're saying by saying they should analyze disaggregated data by program pathway. Student demographics and by task rubric.
And who is doing that?
Uh,
This recommendation.
I think this one is about the data and the second recommendation is about the who.
Okay.
But this is about the data and the analysis, the type of analysis.
Okay. Do we want to recommend that the type of data that's collected is standardized or by the CTC or something so that we can compare and or, you know, like, is that determined by the institution? Is that determined by the program? Or is that, you know, is that something that we want to have?
Yeah, I think
Determined.
that's a good point. So CTC should determine every program needs to do the same
thing.
data and they are X. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what that should be yet, but
Right.
data,
And that the data needs to be the kind of data that's addressing the disparity